Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
They say that music is therapy. I'm sure you've heard that before. We're going to take that many layers deeper in how music can help people going through challenges with their mental health, people who are incarcerated, those just dealing with life but need a lifeline. Music is it. At the very core, think about how music makes you feel. Why do you put on music in the first place? Because you want to feel a certain way. We're going to look at an organization today that does just that. It's a nonprofit. Baltic Street Into Action is the name of the organization, located in the greater New York City area. And Peter Jampel is the man behind it. He's the president. He's back with us. And welcome back, Peter. How you doing?
I'm good. Great to be with you, Steve.
Great to have you here. And you have shared with us over the last number of weeks how Baltic Street supports and helps people through the arts. Doesn't even have to be just music, can be poetry, just any form of expression. We're going to hear a story today from somebody that you're connected to that will really show what this does. Tell us who's with us.
So my guest today is Joel Layton. And Joel and I have known each other since 2008. And we have gone through many phases of our relationship. And Joel is someone whose journey I deeply respect, someone who I think really embodies what we've been talking about these past now 7 weeks, Steve. Someone whose experience and recovery use music in a very significant way. And I think there's nothing more powerful than to hear from someone who's gone through the process to talk about what music has meant to him and what it means to him now as a peer workshop specialist who uses music currently to promote the recovery of other people. So, Steve, if I may, I'd like to kind of launch into Joel's story. And sure. Joel, welcome. Really glad that you were able to make it today.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Nice to see you.
Yes. Joel, maybe just start from the beginning. What music meant to you? What role it played in your life as you grew up, as a young man? What it offered you? And let's start there.
Yeah, we can start there. I came from a musical family. My mother and my uncle were trained classical pianists, and I had music around since I was a child. And I was very affected by it. I understood it. It was like a natural thing. But along the line of going to school and growing up, I always had some kind of issues in school and things like that, and sometimes that could be a little difficult. But the one thing I was good at was picking up music. As far as I had a good ear. I had some abilities to play as a young child, and just as growing up, I did experience some mental illness in high school and going through a little bit through college. But I was getting along, let's say, and just to give you a little bit of background. So getting as I was going through life after I graduated college, I started to work, and all through college. And I started really in high school actually playing the drums. And that's when I started to really get into music as far as playing in bands and having a community of people, because that's what it really was about, getting together with people. And the music for me, it actually was a drive. It was a motivator, let's say, because I was really never too motivated by school, So that was one thing that that I was good at and I could do, and I found community there. Um, but after college, I went through many different careers all the way up until I was around 40 years old. And
Mm.
I had I had become an X-ray tech. I was working, I worked for IBM for a while, selling computers, around the West Coast. I did all kinds of stuff. And after I became an X-ray tech, I went on to Wall Street, and I went through a bunch of different positions in Wall Street. The best one that I enjoyed the most was being a trader on a trading floor. That was a lot of fun. But after that, I had some issues of my own with some substance use. That's how I handled my some of my mental illness. I was self-medicating, and when it came to that end, um, I ended up not being able to work. And that happened in 2008, like right after the crash. I was at that point I was working in an accounting firm doing securities analysis, and I couldn't do it anymore. And so yeah, so I actually went into an outpatient. No, I actually went into the hospital and then going into an outpatient clinic, and that was that was difficult because being so productive and having so many different careers, and and making money, but switching lots of jobs, and thinking that yeah, I can handle things. When I actually at the end of it had to actually reach out for help. And after I came out of the inpatient at the hospital, I was introduced to Peter Jampel, and where he was involved in, and there was a music therapy program there, and I was just trying to get back on my feet. And at that point, they had the music therapy program. I was asked to join, and when you first come out of something like that, after a breakdown, you're like, I really don't want to do anything, but it was suggested that I should just try. And thank God it was there, because when I got into the community there at the outpatient clinic, I started to discover that I could re-engage with people, because right after that I wasn't really engaging with many people when I was sick. Um, and as time went on, Peter, he had this program where you could go and learn how to record in a recording studio, and we had that in the clinic. And we also had a band, so I was participating in the band. It was a slow process too, because I would go once a week, and then they asked me if I wanted to join the class for the recording technology course. So I did that, and I did it with a group of other peers, as we call them, other people like myself, and we all grew together, and we all, again, I found a community there, and we all started to produce music. And it took about 2 years, I would say, to begin to really learn how to do it, but we were doing it on a consistent basis. And just showing up for that, and having them, well, I'm a drummer, so the other people in the band, they were relying on me to support them as far as the drums were concerned, because we had bass, we had guitar, we had singers, and I would go there and play the drums, and learning the technology. I was able to start recording people, and they were recording too, and they were learning, and we were all doing it together. And
Yeah.
and that brought me back. That brought me back to showing up on a daily basis, because I couldn't do so before. So that's kind of the story there.
So what did that gap from the time that you started to experience difficulty in functioning? I understood from our previous conversation that you stopped playing music as you became ill. Why?
Because I was suffering, like, really, like, I was suffering to the point where I was not interested in it. I wasn't really interested in much of anything. at that point. You got to remember when you get to that state, you're not thinking about producing anything. You're not thinking about
Yeah.
engaging with people. That's part of the that's part of the isolation of mental illness, I would say. And what stopped me, yeah, exactly. I just wasn't interested, and I was just trying to get comfortable, let's say.
Mhm.
And I wasn't. So yeah.
So being able to reunite with a community of musicians um, really kind of brought you back to a sense of belonging
Yeah,
and a sense of being able to express yourself again musically. And if I may say, and these are themes that I've touched on with Steve now for weeks, gave you a sense of accomplishment and achievement again, that you were a producing, productive musician, part of a community.
absolutely.
What did it do for you to be in personally to be making music again?
Well, personally, it was at that stage, I would say after being very productive, I would say, and I was playing music while I was working and doing all these other things and having social life and all of that stuff, you know, um, getting back into that. So what the music did, it enabled me because I took to it and there was a community of people, I was able to start showing up there on a day, not a daily basis, but more frequently going forward and engaging. So when you're creating something with other people, like you do when you're working, you're all working toward the same goal, right? So that's what it did. That structure of having a band and making recordings with other people and having a goal got me back into the stream of life. It's not just medication and therapy. It's actually taking the action. That's why when Baltic Street into Action was started, that's what it was named, because we're going back into action. And that's what it was. So taking those actions and moving toward those goals with other people, and they rely on you. So when other people are relying on you and you're helping them out and you're seeing them get creative and accomplishing their goals and enjoying performance and sharing it with other people in the outside world, there's nothing like it, because you're a member of society again. You're there.
Yeah.
You're moving forward. You're not moving backwards.
I'd like to acknowledge here that Joel was a founding force in the development of Baltic Street into Action,
Wow.
Yeah.
and that Joel, brought me into Baltic Street into Action after he had basically done all the homework about how to create a 501c3. So I want to just acknowledge Joel's formative role in our organization's history.
Yeah.
Let me fast forward just a little bit.
Sure.
So, we had this music technology training program. We placed you in 2 internships.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about the first, the recording studio, and the second in the music therapy practice that you worked in.
Okay. Yeah, sure. First it was the music therapy practice was in Staten Island, and it was with Joe Piccinini, who was great. And he brought me in there because um, you know, I was working with him in the recording program that you brought in
Yeah.
to us to the at Baltic Street into Action. And I guess he had asked me if I wanted to work there, just on a part-time basis, just to get started again. And I did, and I went there and I taught drums, and I worked with people with children with autism. I taught a couple of students there, and I helped Joe out around the store, and that right there, that got me back into the idea that, hey, I can get up and go show up at a place and be relied upon. And at that point, before that, I wasn't able to show up for like actual employment, and that was the first actual employment I showed up for. And it was and they were gracious with me. If I couldn't show up that day because I wasn't feeling well, they gave me the grace. But I just kept on doing that, and that experience was great because you see progress in these kids that need music therapy. And Joe was a music therapist, and he was supervising me, so we were working together on helping these children. And it was a good feeling because there's nothing like helping somebody else to get you to get you motivated. At least it gets me motivated.
Yeah.
It's such a great story because I have to believe, Joel, you found connection. It was almost as if you were isolated on an island, and then music came along, and that was, the life preserver to get you connected. And then it was your purpose. And then once you figured that all out, then you wanted to give back to help others, to show them how to do what you did. And yes, it's been said that when you help others, you're really helping yourself as well. Did you feel that it was giving you power?
Oh, absolutely. Because it wasn't just me, it was myself and other people. And before that, I really never considered that until I got to work with people and see the results, in myself and them. And you start to realize that, oh wow, other people are involved. So
Mm,
it makes you motivated because you want to help.
sure.
You end up wanting to help, and that gets you out of that downward spiral, let's say.
Is
You
there a
know,
moment that stands out? You said two words, oh wow. Was there an oh wow moment along the way where maybe you
yeah,
helped somebody, or you discovered something in music, or maybe in yourself that was just like, maybe an epiphany?
yeah, absolutely. Because, like I said before, when I'm working with my peers and they're struggling, and you can support them to help them get to the goal that they want to make, and then you see them achieve that, like in a performance, and then they get positive feedback in that performance. It's like, oh wow, look, they made it, and they achieved their goal, and look how happy they are. And
Mm,
so it wasn't, so like, you're happy for them, and that was the oh wow moment. Was, oh yeah, wow, this is not just about me playing drums in a band. This is about us creating something to share with other people in the audience.
sure.
And they get great joy out of it. So many times I've seen, one guy, his name was Alan, and he would go up there and riff and play jazz with his flute and all of this stuff, and he just came out and said, this is the best thing that ever happened to me.
Wow.
When you see something like that, that's got to affect you. you know
I'm seeing this more and more, even in my journey, and I've been involved in music since I was a kid, just in terms of radio and exposing people to music. And I met somebody like a week ago, not even kidding. And I'm bringing this up because you said flute, and she's been sending me videos of her playing, and just for hobby, just for fun. But I can't not watch. She was in Thailand. She was playing, just like a couple of people on a lawn. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. It's almost like it's like a trance, but I believe it's the energy of the music and the expression and all of that goes into live music, and just what we're talking about here. It's not just some guy playing drums. There's much more going on that the average person, I don't think, realizes. They just think, well, cool music. It's
right.
way more. It's way more than that. And you found it.
Yeah, I mean, it transports everybody that's involved, even the audience. So
Yeah.
when you're in that space, you guys are going somewhere else. You're not, I mean, you're here, but you're moved, and when you have that movement, you can separate, and you don't have to be thinking about your problems all the time. So you get a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's what music does for me anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
I think the idea of a community arts and mental health center is really important to understand here. And that what Joel is involved with currently has developed over many years, but it is a community where people receive services, a range of services for their mental health issues. But what holds it together like glue is the music and the arts. Joel spoke about feeling the audience. There is something about a performance community that creates, again, ritual, that we gather together, we make music together, we celebrate the artists of our community, we celebrate their accomplishments and their improvements, and we acknowledge as a community how that makes us all feel inspired to become, challenge ourselves to be the best creative being we can be. And Joel, I know that, currently your work involves not only music performance and music in the recording studio, working with individuals to help them realize through songwriting and production their vision of their own musical selves, but you do poetry and there's art there. Talk a little bit about what it's like to be part of a community mental health and arts center and what your perception of what that offers people.
Yeah, it offers, so when you're working on your mental health, and you're able to work on other goals, like I'll give you an example of one of the groups that where I'm involved in, with some other people. I don't do it alone. I have other peers. I have other peers are running it, but I support them. And what it is, it's called a script reading group. So we have a group where we go get scripts and we read them, and a group of us get together, a group of the peers get together, and each person takes a part, and we read through, like we did the other day, a Monty Python script, which was hilarious, and we read through it. So we'll do about a half hour of that in our group every time. And what happens is everybody gets a character, and you're reading this character, and you're having a great time because you're reading through the actual lines. And at the end of that, we would stop and then go watch the movie. And as you're watching the movie, then you're like, oh, I'm that character, and I did that reading, and and everybody gets a joy out of it because they get to see themselves in that character, because they read the lines.
What a cool idea. I don't mean to cut you both off. We're out of time. I just keep going. Like that sounds like fun. Not only is it therapeutic, but it's fun at the same time. Peter, please share with everyone, as our professional of the year, how do we connect with Baltic Street, learn more? Maybe there's somebody listening that wants to support this program.
So please visit our website, balticstreetintoaction.com. We just embedded these podcasts into each one of our supported scripts, plus the archives of all of these podcasts, so you can learn more about the work we're doing.
Fantastic. This word was said in the last few minutes, and it's well said. Moved. I believe, Joel, you said it, that music moves you. You've moved me in learning, even more about Baltic Street. I appreciate you both being here today, and looking forward next time we get a chance to talk more about the organization. And Joel, thank you for sharing your story today.
Steve, thanks for having me. And Peter, thanks for inviting me.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
Peter.
Great to be with you all.
Same. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.